All right, so some words about BDI. BDI's purpose is to facilitate doing business digitally in the logistics sector. So that in a trusted way, of course, safe way for participants based on sharing data. BDI is a framework, you could also call it a reference architecture. And together with BDI, we're developing several use cases to prove how the framework actually helps in practice. Next to the use cases, we also developed living labs in BDI, and living labs are meant to test out how use cases can support parties that actually want to use BDI. Today, we are going to look at one use case, and that's a secure issuing of cargo, the vertrouwde goederenafgifte. And the logistical process here is that a driver drives his truck to a warehouse, distribution center, and wants to load goods in his truck. And he's presenting himself to this distribution center, claiming that he is allowed to get these goods in his truck. And that is, of course, a physical transaction, but it's heavily supported by data in the background. So this is also where iSHARE framework helps to facilitate trust in this transaction. So there are a lot of challenges in this situation. For instance, how does the distribution center employee know that the driver is who he says that he is? And is he coming on behalf of the right transport company? And is he actually entitled to get these goods that he claims to want to load in his truck? And today we're going to also address some extra challenges. That is, the selected transport company, selected by the shipper, decides last minute to subcontract the transport because his driver got sick. And as well, every party involved in the transport wants to be informed about the transport status, the actual current status of the transport. And that's also what we're going to address in this demonstration today. There is some logistics lingo involved in this. I hope everyone can see through that. Well, of course, providing a trusted solution leads to several advantages, such as the reduced risk of cargo theft, which is an actual risk in practice, but also a better process, quicker gate access, and better monitoring opportunities. The high-level flow of the demo looks like this, and you will recognize this screen once I connect my laptop. There is a shipper involved. That's called smartphone shop, and the shipper creates a transport order to order precious goods transport to transport goods for him. That's one part. Second part is that he pre-notifies the warehouse, the distribution center. That's called secure storage warehousing. That the transporter will be at his gate claiming goods on behalf of the shipper. And then, as I said, the driver of precious goods transport gets ill, and he needs to subcontract another driver, which is called flex transport in this demo. The flex transport will then present itself at secure storage warehousing, claiming that he wants to pick up the goods on behalf of precious goods transport on behalf of the shipper. And that is called a delegation chain. Pretty common scenario. Won't go too much into the technical details, but there are some components involved here, of course. On the back end, there are some iSHARE certified components, like an association register, as it's called in the BDI, or iSHARE satellite, as it's called in iSHARE, actually the same. There are two different authorization registries. One of them is provided by Port 8, and the other one is an implementation of the iSHARE reference implementation for an authorization registry. And on the other hand, there's a mock implementation of an ERP system, a TMS, that's a transport management system, and a WMS, warehouse management system. And to facilitate the events, we use Apache Pulsar. All right, I'm going to switch screens and do the actual demo here. The smartphone shop is wanting to ship some stuff, so I'll start with the smartphone shop. It's in Dutch, by the way, but you'll probably understand it. I'm now creating an order from the smartphone shop, and in this order, I want to have stuff picked up at the secure storage warehousing and deliver it to, let's say, Schiphol. And as I'm a smartphone shop, I'm going to transport some smartphones. And for this, I'm going to select transport company, Precious Goods Transport. The order has been created, and I can now send the order to the transport company and as well do a pre-notification to the distribution center that this transport company is going to pick up this order. Yes, I'm very sure. It all looks very simple, and if I click Uitleg, it will show what actually has been done in the backend, and I won't go into all of the details. If you're interested, I can show you all the details later. But what's happening here is that the transport order is sent to the distribution center and to the transporter, and at the same time, parties are checked in the association register if they are still participating in this data space, and at the same time, there are policies created in an authorization registry so that the parties can trust the party that presents itself at the gate. Right. Next step. I'm a transporting company, and I've received the order here. I can do two things. I can either select a driver or subcontract, uitbesteed, the order, the transport to another company. As I mentioned in the description, the driver got ill, so I have to subcontract this transport to another transport company. So I click this, and I select the transporter Flex Transport and subcontract the order to him. What's being done now is, again, that there are authorizations created in an authorization registry, and this time another authorization registry is used. So the shipper uses its authorization registry to authorize the Precious Goods Transport Company, and the Precious Goods Transport Companies uses another authorization registry to authorize Flex Transport Company. And there you can see that a delegation chain is created across different authorization registries. You can see here that the authorization registry of port 8 is used. And at the same time, the parties are subscribed to an event channel on Apache Pulsar that is linked to this specific transport order. So that the channel is created where each party can subscribe to and receive messages regarding the transport. I will get to that later. Okay, I go back. Now pretend to be Flex Transport, and I've received this subcontract order to pick up smartphones at secure storage warehousing and bring them to Intel Schiphol. I can even subcontract it more to other parties. I won't go into that now. And I'll just assign it to a driver. And I will claim that my driver has a driver license that ends with 1234 and the license plate number of his truck, that is this. And the order has been assigned to the driver. And at this point, the Flex Transport Company creates a policy in the authorization registry which authorizes the specific driver to pick up the goods on behalf of him at the warehouse. So another part of the delegation chain. I, as a driver, need to present myself at the secure storage warehousing. And I can do that with a QR code. This is a bit difficult using laptops, but the QR code actually contains this information. So I'll just copy paste it and remember the rest. I will now finally pretend to be the warehouse where a driver arrives with this truck, and I'm going to have to verify this driver. For this verification, I'm going to need the information from the QR code, and I'm going to simply fill it in for now. And what will happen now is that the software, so the warehouse management system, will verify the complete delegation chain of all the steps in between up to the delegation of the shipper in order to establish whether or not he is allowed to release the goods that the driver claims to be entitled to. It does take some time because quite a lot of steps are followed here, as you can see. I won't open them all, but what happens is that the parties again are checked against the association register to see if they're still valid parties, still adhere to the agreements, and all the authorizations are checked in the complete delegation path up to the shipper. And the result is everything checks out. I can release the goods, and the driver can leave the property of the distribution center. And as a distribution center, I can click on processed. And what then happens is that a gate out event is created in the Apache Pulsar event channel. This event is shared with all participants that are involved in the shipment, and especially, of course, interesting for the shipper itself, the smartphone shop, who wanted to ship those goods. So, as an example, I can look at this event that has been created. The event itself is in a specific format defined by GS1, and the event basically says that the shipment has left the property of the distribution center and is now in transit. What's interesting is that not every party, of course, has access to this event, and also access to all of the events is managed by creating authorizations and authorization registries, checking those authorizations when the party itself requests access to the information details in the event. So you have to be subscribed, and you have to have a valid authorization for viewing that event. So it might be a bit complicated, but I think it's also a very nice demonstration of how the iSHARE trust framework can provide entitled parties or data rights holders, in this case even physical goods rights holders, and help them to control who has access to it. Well, that's the end of my presentation. I hope it approves.